After seeing Dave's video about wax moths getting into his frames, I thought I'd share one more time my process. This is a process that you have to follow exactly. No shortcuts. If you do this, you will be fine. But you have to follow what I do. So you can see here I have a stack of frames. These are honey supers. And it's a pretty tall stack. No chemicals in here. No paramoth, no curtain, none of that stuff. All these frames were extracted and then they were put in a freezer for a week and then stacked on here little by little. I do my frames. I only have a 6-frame extractor. So I'm not a big processing plant here. This is just me doing what I do. I do a few at a time. My freezer only holds so much. Here's the freezer over here. This is the freezer we use. Right now it's full of garden vegetables, so I can't even get in there. But anyway, you freeze the frames and then you start stacking them and you seal between them. There is a screen frame on the top and there's a screen frame on the bottom. Because once I kill all the eggs, if there are any eggs in there, I certainly don't want any lesser wax moths or greater wax moths to find their way into those frames. So what these screens consist of, it's just a frame that I've made. Well, here's one. It's just a frame that I've made with window screen. Lesser wax moth, greater wax moths cannot get through this. These frames are put in here wet, so there's going to be residual honey dripping from them. So for the first few months, I pull this tray out often and remove the honey. This has been here for a couple months, and this is all that's dripped out. It's very dry down here. We use dehumidifiers. So this honey actually starts to solidify and crystallize, and it stops dripping. But the reason I use this sheet here is because if there were any wax moths in here, or hive beetles or whatever, once they start chewing on the wax, chewing on the whatever, those little microscopic pieces fall through because there are no screens in between here. It's just frames. So, and these frames are pretty much sitting over the top of each other, right? So if a wax moth's up here, he drops a little piece of poop, that poop is going to find its way down all the way to this sheet of plastic. And if I were to see anything on this sheet other than honey, that'd clue me in that there's something bad, and I'm going to have to go through this stack. And you can see how I do it. I just have a little piece of wood here. There's my screen, and then all my frames. So I actually have some supers I haven't even extracted yet. These are all full honey supers. These have been frozen for a week, and I've screened them. And as I'm processing, I'm screening this one too. I'm making sure that if there is a wax moth in this room somewhere, it's not going to find its way into these open boxes. Anyway, that's just how I do it, just so everybody knows, and it works. But like I said, you can't do any shortcuts. I don't like to use any pesticides with my bees. The only 2 chemicals I use is Apivar, which is an essential oil of thyme, the thyme plant, and I use oxalic acid, which is also, it's naturally in both of these products. Or actually, the essential or the oxalic acid is actually in a lot of the plants we eat, like rhubarb and kale, and just that bitter taste. So those are all somewhat natural. Anyway, just thought I'd show you what I do, and yes, it does work. I don't use any chemicals. The beautiful thing about this is once I reintroduce these back to the bees this spring, they go nuts on these because they're full of honey. And they clean them all up, rebuild them, and go to town. I don't actually scrape my wax off my frames, so most of the wax stays on them. These are some that I don't know, did a while ago, but you can see, because I use the honey paw, all the wax is still on there. I just cut a groove in it, and that allows the honey to come out. So when I give these back to the bees, you know, they've got all their honey to work with. This one's not completely filled out yet, but it works. I just thought I'd share that